The closer you look at Kenny Veach's hike footage and his description of the M Cave is rather puzzling when you compare it to his original comment on YouTube. Once again, a new creepy strange finding has been found by myself, and today I'm going to share it with you. Hi there, welcome to the Kenny Veach M Cave mystery, today with a hands-on approach, analysing the caves whilst narrating over from the mindset of Kenny Veach and what I have found in recent time when comparing it to Kenny's footage. Be sure to share your thoughts down below in the comment section whilst watching the video to let me know, do you agree with Kenny Veach? Do you think he's telling the truth? Or do you feel that his constant contradictions discredits himself and the likelihood of the M Cave ever existing in the first place? And for anyone that is watching live during the premiere, welcome. You let me know your reactions on the chat box right side of the screen. But for everyone else, questions, comments, theories, ideas, answers, all of that is welcome and it is appreciated, and I will respond back to the comments later. And speaking of that, if you do want to support the channel, there is a PayPal link and channel membership down below. If you do want to catch up on my recent videos, missed out on anything, don't worry, you'll be able to find it all available. Top right corner where the eye symbol is up there with the full playlist of the case. So the order of how we're going to do things today, first of all, I'll present to you the original comment by Kenny Veach when describing the characteristics of the M Cave. And then we're going to compare it to his actual hike footage and what he had to say. So this is Kenny's original comment before he hiked out there, as you see on his channel. And Kenny said, "This ain't nothing. I'm a long distance hiker. One time during one of my hikes out by Nellis Air Force Base, I found a hidden cave. Entrance shaped like a perfect capital M." So you can see where I've highlighted it with the red line. That's the key point. Kenny found a hidden cave. Now normally when something is hidden, it's hard to find. So it's possible that Kenny Veach stumbled upon it unexpectedly. So after that was said and he was encouraged to go back out there and record it, as you see on his YouTube channel, whilst unsuccessful, it's what Kenny Veach said when describing it once he made it out of Picture Canyon. And it's a huge contradiction to what he originally said.
Well, I did not find the cave. That is so weird. I mean, I thought for sure I was just going to be able to find it. I remember it being fairly easy.
Based on interpreting the language and wording, for something to be hidden, it would be considered hard to find. But then to say it's easy to find and relocate, well, first of all, if it's that easy, then why haven't you found it? And second of all, if it's that easy, why call it hidden in the first place? What's really going on in the mindset of Kenny Veach? Well, there's different ways to understand and interpret it. Let's put ourselves in the mind of Kenny Veach and look at some visual images with the caves, and as well eventually incorporate Cave M by Accord Research, because things can change and be altered with. It can make something that was once hard easy, then hard again to find. It'll make more sense when we head on over to the visual. So we're choosing Picture Canyon, the approach down that way, which Kenny did on his hike loop route back, as in where there was potential caves, because anywhere before that, Kenny didn't document as in caves. Whether they did exist or not, Kenny was more focused on this area, but only briefly passed by, did not get hands-on. Is that because he's already familiar with the area and he knows it's not over here? Well, you could apply that more to when Kenny was just over Wild Horse Pass and mentioned over Joe May Guzzler and the Flat Top, which is more kind of southwest, over where Robbins Canyon is, the one what SB went up in just recent time, where Kenny said there's caves over there, but the M Cave isn't over that way. I'm going down another canyon, Picture Canyon. And, he still didn't find it. So, we're dealing with Kenny's mindset, his contradictions. He already mentioned that it's gigantic at the start of his video, but he also described it as the height of him. Now, is Kenny Veach 6 foot or over? No, he's under 6 foot, so he's not gigantic. If it was 7, 8, 9 foot, well, then you could say it's pretty big, right? So Kenny exaggerating there, but also contradicting himself because he referred to it down Pitcher Canyon as a funny little cave. Well, I don't think it's that little, is it? So the same with the aspect of it being hidden. How hidden is it? If it was in a public area, like how Kenny originally described it to be, from Interpretation Nellis Air Force Base, which is east, outskirts of Las Vegas, closer to Frenchman Mountains, if it was over there, which is more of a popular area for hikers to go by, you could understand it being hidden, because if it wasn't, you'd expect other hikers out there to report about it, but they didn't. Now, I'm not saying that the M Cave is truly over that way, but in terms of understanding the wording and the language, you could expect something to be hidden and secretive if it was in a public open area, especially if many people do come by. But an area like Little Jerme Canyon and, as we see on screen, Picture Canyon, whether you look on ground level or on satellite imagery at the same spot, just from different angles, really no one comes by here. So whether it's hidden or not, it shouldn't matter too much. And if anything of interest was there or inside, like military-related equipment, they wouldn't fret or worry about it because they just feel, well, there's no worry, no need, no one's going to pass by, are they? And then Kenny Veach decides to show up and indirectly come across it, which is hidden. But is it really hidden when Kenny also described it as gigantic, shaped like an M, so it's prominent, it's deep, it's dark, you feel vibrations? It doesn't sound very hidden and secretive whatsoever. It sounds like it stands out quite a bit, but nevertheless, as you heard, Kenny coming out of Pitcher Canyon, and I couldn't find it, and it was fairly easy to find or relocate. How can it be? So what else is going on? And you can split it two ways. The first way is Kenny Veach is a walking contradiction, and you can't believe what he says. And when he says one thing or gives a statistic, he might be over-exaggerating, so you've got to scale it down. When he says something is big, maybe it's small. When he says it's really high up, it's actually low down. You got to do the opposite of what Kenny says and does. Was he doing it on purpose to cause misdirection? Is that through means of wanting to find it himself, not wanting others to take the glory? Or is it means of Kenny being influenced by outside forces, authority, government officials, etc., and having to throw people off the scent after what he stated publicly, as you see there? A public comment gaining the interest online, building a presence with time, and the military hear about a comment like this. Do they really want this to be revealed and spread about online? Especially with Kenny's hike video being done and how he documented his journey out there. He could possibly have been in the correct area as he described, but is the cave hidden once again? And that's why it's hard to relocate? Is Kenny just causing confusion all over? And that's where we transition into the second part. And that is to do with how something that's once hidden becomes easier to locate because you now know the route, you know the direction. However, if there is manipulation, if someone was to head out there, such as here on screen or where it's highlighted in the circle, or if they went elsewhere, up a different ravine like the one up there, which I think is called Skull Canyon or so, or the name given by one of the hikers previously, and SB went up there once or twice. Beside that, if military and anyone else had come by, they took what they needed. They didn't get the land proposal takeover, so they had to, use other methods and means and move on whatever it was from one of the caves. Or even if it wasn't moving things on, they just needed to fill it in, seal up a cave, an entranceway, a mine shaft, anything like that, so that when Kenny Veach went back out there, he was somewhat confused when walking by. He's familiar with the area. He even gives the odd clue saying, yeah, on ground level, kind of like near here. And that's when Kenny's more so referring to the supposed covered cave as mentioned by Sean Horlecker. as you see on screen. But, of course, it's been an endless debate. It's natural rock formation. It's been there for a very long time. From the time frame of when Kenny Veach first encountered the cave to the time when he went out in October, supposedly 2014, to record it, what really is the time frame difference? We're not comparing October to November, as in the disappearance of Kenny. We're comparing October 2014 and anywhere before that, when he was originally out there on his unrecorded hike and he encountered the mysterious M cave and the vibrations. If there's a long enough period in between the two visits, you could say maybe a cave, whether it be this one on screen or a separate one elsewhere, was modified. The environment, the pathway, the vegetation was modified or adjusted. When there's changes made to the environment, it can throw you off. If you go through a forest, a woodland area, and for some reason you're familiar with certain trees, the condition that they're in, there might be a unique prominent one out there which you use as a marker, a beacon point, and as a selection of them to go on a certain route, unguided, and you manage. But then the next time you head out there, if certain trees have been chopped down, branches have been removed, or just completely removed, as whole, you haven't got those familiar markers. And when there's a lack of familiarity, that's when you may feel lost, physically and even psychologically. Where are you? What are you supposed to be looking out for? The call-outs, the markers and the beacons, if they're not there, what else do you have to go off from searching for that once cave? You might even be stood beside it, walking by, and you just have no clue because the area has changed drastically, or a certain level has changed and it's thrown Kenny off where he doubts himself and he's like, yeah, I'm familiar with this area, and yeah, there are caves here, and it is on ground level, just like here, but I'm not going to investigate it because I'm doubting, I'm questioning myself. I just don't think it is the correct spot. But what happens, or what happened if it was? But because of changes being made, what was once somewhat hidden is even more hidden now and completely inaccessible. There's different ways of looking at it, of course. And I'm just using some of these as example points, because some of which, like this, which is at a distance, is more prominent, as you see on this one on the right. M-shaped, of course, but shallow, yes. Does it go any deeper? From the looks of it, not at all. Has it been filled in? No. So if Kenny walked past this, certain characteristics tick the box, but the influence of military, government, and anyone else in between trying to cover it up, fill it in, I don't think there's any adjustments or changes made here. But if there's anything to go off from this, you could put the argument across and say, does this cave or supposed cave link to Accord Research Cave M? You might not be familiar with that, and we'll get to that very shortly. And we can also do a bit of an overlay once again to show you what I mean. What was once maybe visible and accessible later wasn't. And in between, Kenny saw both before and after, but wasn't anticipating any change. He was thinking, well, what was hidden, I've accidentally found, but I do know the hike route, so it should be easy to relocate. Unable to do so, unsuccessful. You hear Kenny Veach's tone of voice and how he talks. Yes, he's disappointed, but he does sound somewhat perplexed, like in a bit of shock. How could I possibly miss it? How could I? It was easy to find. Easy to find or hard to find? Contradictions, yes, but adding in the factors of changes to the environment, it can throw people off. It can make them doubt themselves and question. So these are factors and forms of manipulation that could be used by external forces, unknown groups out there, to try and confuse people. Has that happened since, though? Maybe not so much, but there's been other changes, altercations with the altering, I should say, with the environment, like damage to the mine shaft, crystal skull being removed, taken away, sword and tent, more so the tent, disappearing into thin air. What the hell is going on with those examples? Was that caused by military government, or was that caused by rogue hikers? You never know. And then looking at it from this angle, when passing gone by, highlighted in the circle where the row of the caves supposedly are, on the right you got a canyon which goes up, known as Skull Canyon. Kenny Veach did document that and talk about it briefly. Goes up that way, a bit more narrow, more of a beat off the beaten path, of course, and he said he finds his skulls up there, and I believe SB has hiked up that way too. Other caves, well, roughly in the area, Kenny said there's lots of caves all around here. If you want to go spelunking, you come here. But really, has anyone gone spelunking out there? Nope. Has SB, Jeff Clark, for the most part of it? No, because the caves are too shallow. And if all or most of the caves are too shallow, is that just naturally? Or could one of many, at least one, have been more accessible at one point in the past, but due to the environment being altered with and changes being made to throw Kenny off, so the next time he goes out there, he's not going to find it because it's all changed, it's been filled in, it's been covered up, it's been piled up with rocks. I'm not saying that this is the one, but as an example, in a different area or cave, whether that applies to down Picture Canyon or if it applies up Skull Canyon on the right. So if you're going west, you take a right there. If you're coming down Picture Canyon, you'd be heading somewhat north or slightly northwest, depending on the angling of the map. And whilst, yes, it's been checked and not much has been found up that way, it all comes down to the timing, right? What was once accessible may not be anymore. What was once visible or somewhat hidden is even more hidden than ever. So anyone that comes by now, they haven't got anything to compare with from the past, unless you are Kenny Veach. But as for Kenny Veach, he didn't take photos of his first encounter with the cave. Because if he did, and if somehow he still got confused by the location, if he showed us the photo of it, we could compare from one photo to another and see, was he really in the correct place? And if he was, then it could reinforce the idea that changes have been made, and that's what causes the confusion, what can influence and enhance contradictions being made, and it deemed only that way. See, I'm not saying for sure, but outside forces and groups, entities could be doing it in such a way where they try and push the narrative or let it be pushed naturally by the ex-girlfriend and stick with the, oh, Kenny's got issues, Kenny's got psychological problems, he's struggling, he's in financial struggle as well, so maybe he's desperate, maybe he's trying to create something out of nothing to try and create a mystery, maybe he's losing his mind, maybe he's gone crazy. Let's allow the contradictions to flow in, let's make the person look bad, let's make the person look like they're a liability, so then no one will believe in Kenny. That's what happens in life with time, you know, one against all. And I'm just talking about the general public. Naturally, you may see the truth, you may see the dark reality in things or in most stuff, and in humans as well. You make an observation, you make a point, and what does one or two individuals say? They say, you need to get help, you need a therapist, you need to seek some help, in such a patronizing way. You need to be drugged up to shut up. That's exactly what happens in this world at times, and because one person says it, maybe they're a professional, or maybe they've got some credibility behind it, but when the general public hear that, when they hear from a higher up, someone of a higher expertise, with knowledge, they're probably just going to nod their heads and think, yeah, you're right. And the more people that agree with it, the more the flow goes against you. The more people that say you need to get help, you need to fix yourself, you need to drug yourself up and seek help, just because you made an observation which is deemed as crazy, but it's actually true. You can be made to look bad in this world. You can be made to look crazy. Was that ever done in the Kenny Veach case? Kenny Veach was natural. Might have been a bit odd the way he is at times, but he genuinely found something, whether it truly is the MK or something else which he, more than what he bargained for. Changes made, and it threw Kenny Veach off. It made him doubt himself, but it also made the general public doubt him. And it was a chain reaction, a series of unfortunate events. It's always worth considering. Now, in terms of the Accord research, you may be wondering, why are we taking a look at this? It's an example of what was once there, which is no longer, and a microcosm to material online, which does disappear with time, such as the Accord video is now private. Now, that comment was 2 years ago. That's how long ago it was when it became private. And how do we know it is? Well, I believe at the time I had a URL link because I think I gave credit in one of my videos to that video. And upon searching the URL link, it went to a blank screen on YouTube and said, sorry, this video is now privatized. Has it been deleted since completely? Who knows? But why would anyone want to privatize the video? How does anyone benefit from it? But luckily, I did archive it in the past before all of this took place. So it is under control. It's only screenshots, and I'm only going to show you some of them which are relevant to today. So this is like the logo, what was shown at the start of the video, a chord, the company, a brand, a logo, a triangle. I don't know if it's got a line down the middle to create some kind of 3D effect like a pyramid. That can have its own mysteries too. A chord research. A group of people that went out there searching and came across a mysterious M-shaped cave. Oh, similar to Kenny Veach? But what's the difference, if there is any? It said the sound of Cave M is measured to vary between 30 hertz and 50 hertz. Now, I'm no expert on this, but there was a comment in the past that said with hertz, it's something you can't hear, but more so feel. So whoever was typing this up, did they get it wrong? Was it an amateur mistake? Was it meant in other ways? I don't know, I'm not an expert, but it is hertz. A certain frequency, if that's what more so links to vibrations. Vibrations can cause sound if there's objects nearby reacting to it, shaking, banging, knocking against something. You know, if you had a table and there was a pen on it or something slightly rocking or loose and there's vibrations and it's causing movement, it's going to cause that item to move to and tap away on the table or rock, which creates its own sound. It's indirect sound caused by vibrations, basically. That when you've got music playing, if you didn't have the music but you had the bass or, you know, just the frequencies, you might be able to feel it, and that's what Kenny supposedly did. That's what Jeff Clark felt as well. So it's called Cave M, which is weird because Kenny called it the M Cave. But then again, does it matter how you word it? Depends, because it looks like this one has been given a proper title. Now the visuals do look a bit weird, don't they? How it's kind of like old-fashioned, blurry. It said that the investigation of Cave M was launched the 15th of May, 1980. Prior to this, no known investigation has taken place since its discovery in 1976. So that's when it was first discovered. But the first investigation was in 1980. So why did some years pass by of doing nothing about it? Did it give a true location? No. Is it to do with Little Joe May Canyon Picture Canyon? Who knows? But because they're calling it Cave M and the timing of it, you know, with YouTube and everything, it came across as if it was to do with Kenny Veach. It shows there, photograph taken outside the entrance of Cave M. Now the thing is, when you're looking at that image, it might not quite apply to what you see on screen, but you got to take in consideration the zoom. The zooming of it, that's up close, closer draw distance. This one's taken further back. That one appears to be slightly tilted at an angle, and this one was more, well, is a little bit more straight. But then again, it's still on a bit of an angle, isn't it, with that slope on the ground, how it's slanted. The same could apply here, but if the image has been flipped or reversed or at a slight angle, you know, what's most important is it does appear to show certain similarities. I don't know if you would agree with it or not. You can leave a comment down below. But just imagine if you took those rocks away and they didn't exist, is that what you would actually have? Is that what Kenny Veach once came across? But then when he went back out there, he was met with this. So that's why he said it's on ground level, just like here. Something in his mind was telling him this is the spot, whether that be his brain or his heart. But the other body organ was ruling against it, kind of caught in conflict, where the heart may rule but the mind takes over and pulls you in a different way from what you want or what you know. And then the brain is like, no, it can't be. It looks different, it's not familiar, so I might be just making a mistake here. What if Kenny Veach was right? What happens if it is the spot? But you got to be thinking of the time difference of when it was once open and then when it wasn't. Is there enough time in between for it to be filled in or covered up, or something similar elsewhere to be covered up? The time scale of it. And as well, something like this, does it appear hidden? Does it appear secret? No, it appears quite open and exposed. But maybe that's just how it was when Kenny came across it. Maybe when Kenny referred to it as hidden or secret, he just meant in terms of the general area. It's not somewhere where you would hike or go normally. So technically it's out of the way. And because Kenny does go all over the place, that's how he came across it. And then figuring out the hike loop route, which isn't easy to do, but I guess in terms of once you've got the navigation underway, it can be somewhat easy when you get familiar with the areas, the points of interest, etc. But even if the route was somewhat easy for Kenny, at the end of the day, maybe not. Yes, you can add in extra factors like dehydration, disorientated, thoughts, mood, mental state at the time that impacted his judgment, his navigational skills, etc. Whether that you apply that on his recorded hike or on his final hike where he disappeared, but then again his scent ended at the mine shaft. He didn't even get to Pitcher Canyon, which is even more strange. So you let me know what you think below. What I want to do now is just do a bit of an overlay briefly and show you what I mean by the entranceway. So I'm doing it just a little bit differently this time round because I'm doing it through an app. In the past, I would do it in the gallery, but back then I was on Android. Now I'm on Apple, so I can't do it the same way. But nevertheless, hopefully it shows up on screen. We've got the overlay of Cave M by Accord Research, and then in the background, you've got the cave that Kenny walked by from the point of view of Sean Hall-Ecker in 2019. I have rotated the image just a little bit, and all I want to do is change the opacity. So from 0%, that's what the cave looks like of what Kenny walked by. And then when you reveal it just a little bit more, you know, it kind of fits in. You know, look at the center of the supposed cave where you see it's divided by two big rocks and there's like a crack or a split going down it. Follow that with the spot of the cave overlay. And you see the, what do you call it? The V shape in the upper middle area. And that's where a rock does join, a separate rock, I think, joins with those two lower ones. The one that's more prominent is on the further right-hand side, where the stack of rocks build up upwards. It kind of fits the boulders in a way. Now, if people disagree, that's fair. I understand. You can leave your comments down below. But I'm just trying to understand, is it possible that this image that was taken, whether it be the 1980s or 1976, is of this spot? And if it wasn't, could it be within the area, just a different spot, which Kenny hiked by or did in the past? I just want to know your thoughts. It might not be the best comparison, but I'm just working with what I've got. You go back and forth, trying to match it with the ground level. Just know that maybe the angle was different, the time, the season. At one point there might have been less vegetation compared to 2019 when Sean Hall-Ecker was out there, right? It just feels like there's a bit of a link, possibly. One's more up close, whereas this one on screen, as the overlay, looks like it's a bit more zoomed out from a distance. Just when you go back and forth with some of the boulders on the rocks on the right, it does look like it. It feels like part of the rocks were always there and then others were added on at a later point. So is it possible that when Kenny Veach was on his hike, he saw that? But when he went on his recorded hike in October, he saw this instead. Upon reflection through this video, it's clear that there are an endless list of contradictions by Kenny Veach. The reference of it being hidden secret, but then also easy to find on a surface level seems hard to believe, unless it's the aim of you unexpectedly come across it and then it becomes easier to find once you know the location and you reflect back on it too. But then it's the additional factors which take place, which can cause somebody to feel like they're losing their mind, feel like they're going crazy, start self-doubting themselves because they were sure, they were confident that they were going to find it, and yet they didn't. And if they're in a high-pressure moment or they've got something to prove and they can't deliver, it doesn't do much good for them. And it's not going to do much good for the general public that are anticipating it, and you can't deliver. Over-deliver, or over-promise, under-deliver. That could be an underground factor for Kenny Veach. It doesn't fully explain how he disappeared, because his scent ended at a mine shaft, and whether it be the one SB found or the one Kenny Veach recorded just before Wild Horse Pass, that's way before Picture Canyon and the supposed area of caves. Unless there's any caves up Jomay Canyon in a different area, hence why Kenny's scent ended at the mine shaft nearby. But in terms of the disappearance aspect, and at the mine shaft, if he disappeared into thin air, that's its own mystery, which we'll need to focus on at a separate point. But the mystery of the M Cave is its own individual thing, and it's just as important, if not more creepy. It's the original key what Kenny was trying to find, and he was able to successfully do the hike he intended the first time round on his recorded hike, but then on his unrecorded final hike, who knows what really happened. But I feel in some ways, depending who the individual is, who's going to believe them, right? Who's going to believe Kenny Veach? When it comes to online, you can say anything. You can be anything. You can pretend. You can fake your way to whatever. You can deceive others in your face, in your appearance, in your voice, your tone. You can turn and transform yourself into anything and fake it, lead a fake life, lead people into a false sense of security and mess people up mentally. But in terms of Kenny Veach, what happens if there is an unfortunate situation at some point? And this is just me giving different points of views and perspectives for the full understanding, what if Kenny Veach was genuine and he was passionate, he was enthusiastic, got a little bit overexcited in what he found, tried describing it with a few contradictions along the way, whilst other pressures in the background, trying to get by, trying to do it, unsuccessful. And if there were changes out of one's control, you can't control everything in life. You can't control the environment. You can't control where you go out or how it appears visually. If there are changes, if things are added or removed, and ever since things have been added or removed in different ways, not so much to do with the MK directly, but other areas of interest out in Jomay Canyon from other hikers coming and going there, and some returning back and noticing there's a change, or the viewers noticing it through the footage. If Kenny Veach had the same experience, but on a much bigger scale, you can't blame him if he did get confused. You can't blame an individual if they do question or doubt themselves, because something that's so familiar with them, when something so unexpected happens, which normally doesn't happen, it's such a surprise or a shock, and it throws you off balance. It can knock you back when you're stable and certain with something, when you're familiar, whether it's a routine or anything really, and then suddenly you're smacked in the face with such a complete different reality check compared to your reality. The new reality has taken place. Things have changed. Something has been sealed, covered up, removed, taken away. The pathways changed. The trees are pointing in a different direction. Just things like that, which could be altered with by human presence to make it as if Kenny is going crazy. Manipulation. And that's what can happen in a domestic situation behind closed doors, where one partner, this is a different example, but when one partner says to the other in a controlling way, whether that be through gaslighting, manipulation, more so verbally, where they almost like reverse engineer and break down the situation in which they are the problem. They have caused an issue, and they somehow managed to twist and flip it onto the victim and make it seem like that they're to blame for it, that they're responsible, and eventually they believe in that. So even when you got your back up against the wall and it's clear that you are the problem, but you somehow managed to sliver your way out of it and change the direction and the course of where the energy is coming from, change the course of the interrogations or the questioning or who's in the right, who's in the wrong, and flip it like a complete U-turn, where the other person wasn't expecting it, whether it's done slow or if it's done so abrupt and erratic that it throws the person off. It's like, excuse me, what? Like if, well, I can't give you an example on the spot because it wouldn't be practical enough, but you get what I'm saying. But for Kenny Veach, it's not so much him that may be doing all the manipulation. It could be something external, a force or a presence out there, as in other humans maybe, trying to protect or conserve secrets. They don't want to completely change up because they don't want it to be too obvious. But then again, in fairness, land proposal takeover 1 year after Kenny's disappearance. But maybe a temporary solution to the problem was to either make Kenny disappear or even before that to temporarily cover up a secret. It might have even been done in stages. Look at Really Robin. That was in stages, from appearing, doing a hike, to then later saying he's finally found the truth and doing a video or two, to then deleting most of his material and content, to then slowly removing or disabling comments, to then eventually deleting his whole channel. It was a process, bit by bit. And sometimes, like with a domestic situation, it's slow. It constricts like a viper or an anaconda. It's slow enough so that when the other person or the people realize what's happened, it's too late. Little changes along the way so it's not too abrupt or too noticeable. But those that have a good eye or good ears, they will pick up on the changes regardless. And there's not much you can do about that. So I'm thinking with Kenny Veach, is it possible that he originally found the true M Cave? He talked about it online, it got the interest, it got out the news and spread, and somehow military or government found out, or other groups did. And they were like, what should we do? A temporary solution could be take the stuff away or seal, cover it up. But which cave exactly? Well, I'm just talking in general, right? Do a form of temporary action to ensure that if Kenny goes back out there, as his comments say, he's not going to find it. And when he is out there, and when he does drop clues and hints, it could be the area or familiar to him in the past, but because of the changes made, it's like, oh, well, actually, I don't know. An inner conflict with your own mind and brain due to external influences of other people to try and disrupt your own thoughts and chain of mind and everything within, to throw you off, to make you doubt yourself and just move on like nothing happened. And then after, when Kenny was unsuccessful, considering he said he was going to try again another time, a public comment, I'm going to go out there again, that might have put the backup of the military thinking, is he really going to chance it? Is he really going to go back out there and try again after we've done a temporary fix solution to a problem? He's going to go out again. And how many more times is he going to go? He's becoming a bit of a problem to us. He's becoming a bit of a pain in the backside. I think we need to sort him out for good. And maybe on that final hike, that's when they did sort him out properly. You never know. And in between the process of, well, if we cover it up and then we let things be, flow as they are, in their mind, they could have been like, well, because of Kenny not being able to prove it and we've done a good job at concealing it, it's only going to make Kenny look crazy. It's going to damage his credibility. People aren't going to believe or trust him. And then there we go. We don't have to worry anymore. But people still believed in it. People still believe in it now. And maybe with time, even after the disappearance of Kenny, then it was like, right, we really need to take the land over. Because if government or military have anything to do with Kenny's disappearance, it would make more sense if they want to take over the land. One of all, more importantly, if they want to add more stuff to it, or if they needed to preserve or protect things that are already there, as in secrets, so no one else comes along. Maybe the military and groups don't want to make people disappear at times, but they've got no choice. Depends how you look at it. And because of Kenny's disappearance and it gaining a lot of interest online with time and with YouTubers as well in the early days talking about it, it could be possible that it got to a point where the military were like, right, this is going to erupt like a volcano. We need to do something. We need to do a land proposal takeover just because of the timing of it. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, being fair and being realistic, they didn't get what they wanted, did they, the military? And ever since hikers have gone out there, So what's ultimately happened? Have all those other hikers gone missing? No, because they didn't find the cave. So there's no reason to make someone disappear if they just don't have the truth or knowledge themselves. You only make someone disappear when you feel you're threatened by them, when they could hold the secret, they could reveal something, and you don't want that. So you hide the secret and you bury them with it. If other hikers have been out there since and have not found the cave, there's no reason to make them disappear, because if you did, it'll make the place even more suspicious and put it even more on the map and encourage even more people to go out there. So there's a way about it, you could argue. Is there any other final points to acknowledge there? I just think the actions of making someone appear to look crazy, direct or indirect, and passively, you let that grow, and the general public will just think, oh, another crazy guy, another weirdo, another conspiracist theorist. Just like all those news articles and papers, conspiracy theories. Not just a theory, not just an idea, but a conspiracy. Use those keywords to make it sound bad. Use those keywords to make it sound more familiar with the typical, over-the-top, and not to be trusted. Whether that applied to Susan Veach as well as in that documentary where they made her look bad, made her look crazy, and it was edited to do it that way. Look, I can relate because maybe people don't know in the Kenny Veach case or community. So, for those that don't know, I myself, Warlight Wrath, I did feature in a Paramount Plus documentary, the Dylan Rounds case. Material was used of me without my consent, without any early knowledge that it was going to be done. And the problem is, no credit was given, but the main problem is the clips, what they used of me, they edited it to make it sound like I was saying it myself, to make me look bad. I've got the full video and the full clip of me, what I actually said. I said, there are other people out there that have suggested this. But they cut it down to excluding the part where I give the source of where it came from. So it sounds like I'm the one stating it. So it sounds like I'm the crazy one. I'm the bad person. Not good, is it? So when things are done to make you look bad, to tarnish you, to paint you in a bad light, in a crazy way, it can happen. It's happened to me, unfortunately. Not too much damage because I responded back quick on YouTube with my response and with what I could do. But for other people, it can happen to them. And if it happened to Kenny, I would understand. If it happened to Susan, I know some people may not agree, but I do understand under the circumstances. One against all, you've been made to look like the bad guy, been made to look like the black sheep, whatever. Tactical. It can be tactical. Military tactics, psychological warfare. Any type of equipment out there which could have a psychological impact on people, scare people off, make people lose their memory, impact time and whatever in between. It could go deeper than what you think. And that's why it's important to say, yes, Kenny Veach contradicted himself, but maybe it wasn't truly meant. And there was additional factors which were influencing Kenny, which even he didn't know about. So I am interested to hear what you think about it, whether you agree or not. Be sure to drop a comment below and feel free to hit the thumbs up, like the video, share the video, so as many people get to see and hear about it. My name's Warlight Wrath. We'll leave it there for now. We'll see what happens next. Appreciate you watching. Take care. Good night for now.